Hello and welcome to Show Me Your Diamond podcast. I'm Giulia Castelli, your host, and the newest diamond on the podcast is Diana Pagano. Welcome, Diana. She is, let me just give you a few words before she properly introduces herself. Diana is an action driven mindset coach. She's a podcaster, she's a book writer, she is a mom of 4 children, she's a wife, and she's so much more. Welcome, Diana.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Well, it's so amazing to have you. We have met in person. I'm very pleased to say that. We met and probably a few times each other around the world and speaking on different stages together. So please introduce yourself. How do people know you and how would you like people to know you?
Thank you so much. Yes. I've been an action-driven mindset coach for many years. I've been coaching people to really break free from cycles that they sometimes don't even know or aren't aware that are actually there, that exist, right? It became a passion as a young entrepreneur, once upon a time, being a single mom, running around with my head cut off, not knowing that there was a better way to live, right? And so later, fast forward, I got into real estate business because I wanted to give my kids something more than what I had growing up. And so I thought, oh, this is freedom. I can do real estate and I can be present with my children. And yes, I took off. I was very successful on paper, but then, I was pretty broken inside because I was living in pure survival mode. And so I realized later as I enthralled myself in the psychology behind humans, I don't have a PhD. I'm not a doctor, but I'm a person that has experience, that lived it, that still lives it now, that goes through the motions and figured out what that was, right? How do some people, Julia, succeed and other people struggle? That became my obsession and that became my biggest breakthrough moments. And I said, wow, I figured it out and there's so much to still do. No, I don't think that any coach can say they have it all figured out all the time. They just figured out something, but then 10 years from now, they're going to add more things to their toolkit. And so my obsession is that helping others break free from the limitations that they sometimes don't even realize is holding them back and having that clarity. As you fast forward, I became an executive vice president for a family business, and we grew this company from being only 6 employees, 7 employees, under 10, and growing it to almost over 60 employees. And it all came from the same philosophy, and that's where my slogan was really born of make things happen. Right. I own the trademark and I have a podcast, Make Things Happen podcast with Diana Pagano that I'm obsessed with because just like you, it's about empowering others with your message. And we're all making things happen, Julia. And I really truly believe that the way you make things happen in your personal life and your business, they coincide, they affect each other. People say, oh, you got to leave the personal separate, but it's not separate, it's who you are. And so we try so hard to keep things separate, there's a conflict. And that's what I did for many, many years. And I was living in pure survival mode when I realized you can live intentionally, you can have a different life.
I love that. And there's so much I can relate to the single mom thing, the living in
Mhm.
survival mode, the divorce stage, the having to provide for my children, the desire, the constant striving to get better and to be the best role model for my children. And what I really want to show them is that you can be a mom and you can be a successful businesswoman and you can
Yes,
go after your dreams and you can have fun. All of those
absolutely.
things are possible. On Sunday, I delivered a masterclass, Giulia Castelli Success Formula. It was amazing. I had conversions, people. I connected with the audience. I inspired the audience, and people immediately sign up to work one to one with me. And after I finished the masterclass, 8:30 in the evening on a Sunday evening, my daughter had a girlfriend over for a sleepover. I made them a fresh banana bread. And then I was the good mom and I was the good businesswoman. And I called the girls because now they're 14. And I said, girls, you can have it all. You don't need to choose. So,
No, you don't need to.
Diana, from all your experience, my God, being an entrepreneur, podcaster, writer, a wife, a mother, what does success mean to you?
Absolutely. And it's actually an interesting question because success is so many different things. And I think people think, oh, you have $1 million in the bank account, you're successful. But I truly believe it's success is living life on your terms, living life on your terms where you are living life with a fulfillment inside that money cannot buy. Because I've often had people say, this is my goal. I want to be a millionaire. I'm like, and then what? What are you going to be able to do? What does that mean? There's always something that you're identifying to the goal that you're after. There's an experience, there's a feeling that we have, whether it's we don't feel worthy, but we become our identities. Our recognition, I'm sorry, the all the awards that we win, the success that we accomplish, that becomes our identity, right? And so if you're not accomplishing things, if you're not succeeding from the outside, then people get lost, and they don't feel as fulfilled. I've had the pleasure, Julia, to even meet some billionaires in California, where I'm from, that had it all. They were worth $2, $3 billion, but they weren't very happy, right? They weren't really fulfilled. And so for me, success is when you have the full package, when you could be a part of something bigger. And I do believe that all of us have our own unique gifts, and we're all here for a purpose. And when you find your purpose, when you're truly not only find your purpose, but when you align your life in accordance to your purpose, you become a different human. You just do. Life doesn't have to be so hard. Yes, that doesn't mean that all of a sudden challenges don't happen in your life because you aligned yourself with your purpose, right? Of course, that's life happens, and it's all meant to be a part of your story, right? To be able to say, oh, I know what to do now with that thing. It's part of my toolkit, or grow, right? Things happen to grow us, to stretch us. But yeah, that's the meaning for me of success, is knowing that I'm a part of something bigger than myself. And I do believe, regardless of what your belief is, God put us here for a reason. And when we align ourselves with the thing that we're meant to do, that's success. That's true fulfillment.
Mm, I love it. And sometimes people ask me, okay, you're a coach, you're a podcaster, you're an author. Why do you invite a coach, a podcaster, and a book writer? Isn't there a competition? And I love that question because there was a time when I had my limiting beliefs, when I had my mind. I mean, I've always had an open mind. I was always curious, but of course, I did have some limiting beliefs that, oh, there are people doing the same thing, we in competition. But once I managed to break this limiting belief, once I understood that co-creating and actually coming together and making our purpose one, and joining the energy, the wisdom, and just giving, because right, you're not paid to be here. I'm not paid to be here. In fact, it cost me to produce the podcast. But there's a bigger purpose for that, because I feel fulfillment when, because I'm so lucky to know amazing people like you, I want to share them with the world. And I want this wisdom to come to them, because maybe not everyone can afford to work one on one with you or one on one with me. But here,
Right.
maybe you say one word, one sentence, and you ignite
Absolutely.
someone's fire, or you save someone's life.
Absolutely. When you mentioned the competition, the way that I see this, right? I remember when I pursued real estate as a young 25, in my mid 20s, and people said, "Oh, it's such a competitive market." And I was like a rookie. I was a baby in the industry, and I was just so eager to learn. And I'm like, "Well, how did they start? Everybody starts somewhere, right? We don't see all the things that they went through. Maybe they're this big time, professional expert in their field, right? Regardless, what anyone listening here like aspires to be. Someone started somewhere, right? And when you think about things differently, right? It's about thinking differently about what you see, because it's the way that you see the situation, the circumstance, like you said before, could getting over limiting beliefs, that there's a lot of competition in whatever field that you want to pursue. When I look at this, I look at it like it's an abundant universe. It is such an abundant universe, right? We don't all want the same things. There is plenty of anything that you would desire. There's plenty of opportunities out there that awaits you. But when you have a conflict, people sometimes say, I'm not getting what I want and this and that. And I'm like, well, you're not aligning yourself with the thing you want. If you're not ready and open to receive, you're never going to get the thing that you want. Right. And we don't always attract what we want, Julia. We attract and manifest what we believe
Mm.
at our core. Your belief system, the belief you have about this thing, if it looks hard and you see it as hard and you see it as dang near impossible, what's the action that will follow? Not much. right? And there's a part of our brain, the reticular activating system, that's always paying attention and filtering experiences, the things that you notice from a neuroscience perspective, which is one of my obsessions, and talk about this in my book, The More Mindset. It's huge. It's huge because no one gets to control that but you. And that's why when you look at somebody and they have the same experience, the same background, they didn't come from money, they, had a rough childhood, and one person's successful and the other person is not. But yet they came from the same background, they had the same type of circumstances, they also didn't come from money. What's the difference? And the difference is always going to be in how you show up, what mindset are you bringing to the table, right?
Mm, I am with you on that one and on everything else that you said because I am aligned with my purpose. My belief is that the universe is abundant. My belief is that together we're stronger and there's enough for everyone, right?
Absolutely.
And that's what I do and I love what you do. So
Thank you.
tell us about a story, a time in your life when things were hard, when things felt hard, and maybe you didn't at that time you didn't see a way through it, and how did you get out of there?
Absolutely. Gosh, I don't think we have enough hours to tell you about all my hard times, but I'll tell you a pivotal moment for me in my 20s as a young single mom at the time. And I was having the success that people would see on the outside, right? Like I drive a BMW, you live in a really nice neighborhood. How are you? You're so successful. Like um, but there was times that I wasn't successful even on paper, right? I didn't even know how I was going to pay my electric bill or my mortgage. It was a real thing. Nobody paid me a salary. I didn't, no one gave me leads, as a real estate agent. It was up to me to go find the business, even when the business wasn't there, right? And so there was a pivotal moment that, for me was just exhaustion of always having to be on 24/7, 365, living in pure survival mode where I had some success one minute, the next minute I was very not successful. And there was times, Julia, I mean, I came from nothing, right? I grew up in a family, it was a family of six in a two-bedroom apartment most of our young life, and my parents were struggling entrepreneurs, right? And we moved around a lot. And I share that because that's the habit. Sometimes we are doing and living life based on previous things that you don't really realize that has influenced you on an unconscious level, right? And I realized this later as an adult that, oh my gosh, this was my parents. And I was so afraid of having to be evicted from our apartment as a child. I was so afraid as a young adult mom, single mom at that, where I was afraid that, my kids are gonna have to be rooted and move around every, like, I don't know, it felt like every 18 months, give or take, that I wouldn't be able to stay in the same place. And so that drove me. That drove me to my core. And that's why I succeeded, right? Like financially, but at the same time, it wasn't a healthy way of succeeding, right? Because I was so afraid and I was pure survival mode. It wasn't truly living with intention. It wasn't living life on my terms, which is what I talk about now, is how do you change that narrative? It doesn't have to be hard. But I grew up believing, right? Believing at my core, not because I was told, but because I saw it, that life had to be hard. Right. And so I started to repeat those same patterns. And sometimes we carry these generational cycles that we don't often realize it's part of where we came from. And sometimes you could be in your 40s. It could be something that you went through as an adult in your 30s. It doesn't always have to be from childhood. But for me, that was the driving force. It was that pivotal moment that I said, things like this is what was my rock bottom. I remember not even having money to put gas in my car. And I'm like, what am I going to do? And it was just my faith in God has been, obviously that's been my biggest attribute I can say is my faith in God. But it's not just faith in God. As I talk about this often, it's not just I believe in God, I have faith, but then you go sit on a couch. No, you have to be about the action. You have to do something. You got to move towards what you want, right? And so there was a lot of that going on and really understand more self-discovery of myself, of what human psychology, Julia, of why do people do certain things and it works and other people doesn't. And I realized it's because of all the noise that was going on in our heads, in our minds, right? If I'm going to go see a client, I'm like, I wonder if they're going to tell me no, or the competitor is going to get the business instead of me. And the flip side, when I succeeded, I remember exactly why I succeeded. I had the right energy that I was putting to the table. So I talk about all of that in my book, The More Mindset. I share about my story because that happens to the best of us. And my parents struggled more so with the emotional instability. Like we're all emotional creatures. I don't care who you are. Like I'll go from 0 to 10 because I'm excited, or I'll flip my SHIT sometimes, but you can't stay there. I think the highest achievers will tell you that it's about the energy that you're bringing to the table. And when my parents were so stressed out all the time, the energy was exhausting. Even when they went to work and presented their presentations at the time, they were doing pots and pans, stainless steel, the best that money can buy. Here in America, we have a Neiman Marcus. Like this is quality stuff that even Neiman Marcus didn't carry. But either way, that's huge. And so that, sorry to make that a long story, but that's when I realized the power that I actually have. Like, wait, I can control my thoughts. I can make a new choice. I could start paying attention to the energy that I'm feeling, because think about it, when you have a thought, it changes how you feel, right? And the way that you feel is going to then determine the type of action that you take, right? And so that became my obsession. That single-handedly became my obsession and my journey, where it started with mindset and knowing that, oh my gosh, how many other people out there are just like me with the mindset that, oh my gosh, I don't know how to get out of this.
Wow. And did you come to all your conclusions and discoveries on your own, or did you seek the help of a coach, a mentor, a therapist?
I had many mentors and many coaches, but I didn't really have a specific one in real life. It was more like books. I really did look into books, and you know what? Throughout my life, I've had coaches, in business and anything that I wanted to get better at. I think coaches, bring a tremendous amount of value. I don't care how successful you are. I even talk about this on my podcast. Like, I don't care how successful anyone is. The highest achievers that you might look up to have a coach still
Yeah.
today,
Yeah.
right? And they might be coaches themselves, right? It's something that has been so fruitful for me. So yes, when I went through my discovery, it was, even just, seeking my deeper into my faith, but it wasn't that alone, right? There's a lot of other things that I looked into in books and people that I would see that were doing something. I'm like, well, how did they do it? Even in my business, even in real estate, I remember, there was this gentleman that was in a room and he had the door closed, and he was the highest achiever in the office at the time. And I'm like, how does he do it? How does he do it? He's so successful. And then I realized, oh, you got the door closed from 9 to 11 every day without fail. You're in that room, like do not disturb, and you're making calls, you're making your hour power. And that's when, even that, I'm a salesperson. I've been in sales my whole life. And even that, it's like, so we're here to learn from other people, right? But yes, coaches definitely play a role.
Hmm. And I agree with you. There's always the next level, right? I am also a coach and I have a coach and I am a therapist and I have had therapies because for me, I like to grow fast. I am very impatient, and yes, you can do it on your own. You can read plenty of books. But if you want to accelerate your success, if you want to achieve more, then obviously you learn from someone who has done it and they give you the
Absolutely.
shortcut.
A hundred
And
percent. Mine was a long route. It was a long route. It didn't happen overnight.
yeah.
But so many amazing books and so many aha moments, but it was a journey. So I definitely encourage anyone, even if, you were to buy an amazing book, whether it's The More Mindset or even the book that Julia you have out, that's like an added value. That's a great thing for you to have, because you should be reading all the amazing books. You should always be having a book that you're reading, but also working with a coach. It makes a world of difference. The results that change, um, I don't know. I mean, when you put money to it, it multiplies. It multiplies because you have somebody that has gone through the thing that and has the tools, but you also have an accountability partner.
Mm.
So it's very different. Even when I go to the gym, who wants to go to the gym? I mean, there's a lot of people that go to the gym. They go and do their little Pilates class and do all that. I personally, that doesn't work for me. That's
Mm.
the long route. That's the long route. For me, when I have a personal trainer, even for to be fit, and I know that he's waiting for me on this day and this day at these times, there's a sense of belonging. There's a sense that somebody else is there with me in the journey to support me. And that's huge. That's
Yeah.
huge when it comes to results, right? Like you said, you don't have to go the long route. You can do the shortcut, but how bad do you want change? How bad do you want results? Because I'm very results driven. I don't coach anybody unless I absolutely know that results are going to follow.
Yes. Amazing. And definitely for all of our listeners and those who watch us on YouTube, yes, feed your minds. Definitely read or listen to books or inspiration or more successful people. But only reading and listening is not going to get you there. So the next step is make a decision. And then the next step after that, take the action. And then if you want to accelerate it, take yourself, take someone who has done it before you. And you don't need to choose someone who is miles and miles and miles away from you. Just choose someone who you align with as energy and someone who is not too far from you, because then you really believe it's possible. Because if you are at square three and you look at Tony Robbins, I mean, A, you cannot afford him. B, it's going to feel unattainable because he's so far ahead. But that's why, you just, yeah. So that accelerates, but the work is in ourselves, because you have to take the decision, you have to take the action. So you
Absolutely.
were in that difficult place, and how did you get yourself out when you took the decision and you took the action, and when you learned about human psychology? Is that when things happened for you?
I think that, it's more or less we're all doing the things that I discovered, that everybody discovers. This is not an invention that I made up. So whether, someone's going through the trenches or not, like you're already manifesting. We're
Mm,
all manifesting the things in our life, that we're all manifesting the good and the ugly. Not everybody likes to hear the truth, and it's like hard to swallow. How did I attract this?
yeah.
Sorry, I can have a list of the things that I attracted that I don't like, didn't like, but there's a part of us, right? And like I said before, it could be unconsciously that you don't realize that you've accepted something to be
Mm,
so, whatever that so is. You might, it could be like, how about COVID? We all know what COVID did to everybody, right? And if you believe that you needed to go crawl in a basement somewhere because if you didn't, you were going to get sick. Well, then now you're that person. You believe that. You have that belief system, and it affects how you perform. It affects how you do what you do. And I'm sorry, but it affects what you attract into your life.
mm,
Period. When you look at science, neuroscience, when you look at a part of our brain chemically and the things that change, right? The awareness that actually happens because of my belief, if I believe that this thing is going to absolutely crumble me, right? Then all of a sudden, everything around me, the experiences as I walk through life, even though, even though it doesn't have to be that way, but because I believe it to be so, then that's what I will experience. This isn't some positive thinking language, Julia. This is reality. This is quantum physics at its core, right? And so, what I want to share is like, for me, it was a journey. It wasn't like, oh, I learned the psychology and that's when it became fun. To me, it was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to live on purpose. I'm going to start raising the bar. I'm going to start raising the bar. And it started with my real estate business because I was selling real estate at the time. And I said, okay, I'm only going to work with buyers that have X amount of, whatever the need is. Because you could sell $1 million property or $100,000 property, and it takes the same amount of time, well, the same amount of energy more so, right? And so clients, honestly, for me, the higher end clients were less pains in the butts. And so I started to play with it in my business. So whatever business somebody's in, whatever business you're in, you start noticing areas in your life where you can start changing the way you see that. For example, I started, like I said, raising the bar. I started to say no to the things that didn't serve me. I was a single mom for almost, what was it? 7 years. I dated, yes, but I got remarried. My daughter was like a year and a half to 2 years when I got divorced, or my first marriage. And then I met my husband when my daughter was 8 and a half. So the point is that even when I dated, even dating, and I said to myself, the next person I date will be my husband. I share about this in my book. And so these are the things, right? These are the small steps that people think they have to change their whole life and do something like radical. It's not radical. It starts with even just the small steps and understanding when you put up with this behavior, whether it's from your kids, your people you date, your partner, your customers, yourself, you start to then you start to embody this vibrational energy that you're that person that's always being overwhelmed. You're that person that, everybody takes advantage of. You're that person that loses her SHIT in 2 seconds, right? Even for me. So when you talk about like what was that pitiable that moment that you learned about the psychology, I think it became fun, Julia, because when you understand it, and even then, I've grown so much since then, but you start playing with the idea and you're like, okay, this is no longer a coincidence. I can actually attract whatever I want in my life. And right. And so people might say, well, why didn't you win the lottery if you want to attract it? Right. So everybody has different needs, different wants, different desires. But it doesn't mean 100%. I can sit there like a genie thinking I'm going to win the lottery and then you win the lottery. That's not how it works. There's all this stuff that works together with
Mm.
how you think, how you feel, and at your core, right? And
Mhm.
how you attract the things in your life.
The alignment, when once I found my purpose and my bigger why, in 1 year, I have written a book, I have done a TEDx talk,
Amazing.
and God knows it. My God, this is my very special year. In a week, I'll be 50. And
Oh,
I wanted, thank you. And I wanted to reach that point and to decide, because obviously I am an overachiever and that has its roots, right?
mhm.
It has its price. But once someone asked me this question, if someone told you that you won't achieve anything more than what you have achieved until today, would you still be happy? And I love this question. First, I thought it's a strange question, but I thought about it and I went deep and I replied to myself and I said, yes, I'll still be happy even if I don't achieve anything anymore. And that gave me enormous freedom. Now I freed myself from this need to prove, this need to achieve. And at that age, I love this stage in my life because I can comfortably say no as a full sentence. I can let the things and people who do not serve me anymore because I change and then I give space to something new that would align better with me. And this is liberating. And I loved how vulnerably you shared where you came from and your childhood. And it's so amazing that you share that because in many places around the world, and my desire, a dream, and goal is that my podcast, Show Me Your Diamond, will be listened to by millions of people around the world because I believe there's so much wisdom that is to be shared. So many people think in different parts of the world that if you're born in America and you're white and beautiful and you just see, even the simple fact that you're born in America, that you automatically have money and you don't struggle, right? And you have no
Right.
problems with money and bills. And that's why I love how you share that, because you being in America, actually America is one of the toughest place to make money and to have business. Yes, there are many opportunities, but it's so developed. Imagine I came from a communist background, and here I was at 25. I moved to New York with $2,000, 3 suitcases, don't know anyone. So I have the American customer service school, which I believe is the biggest, the best in the world, because the client is
Yes.
always right. You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then also the other thing, I was paid only on the base of my results, commission only, no salary. So there's no free lunches. You work, you get paid.
No.
You're good at it, you
Right.
get a lot of money. And
Yeah.
this is what I had, and I get goosebumps now because you share that. If you sell the real estate, you get money, you'll get a commission. Otherwise, no, if you're not good, no one gives you free money.
No one gives you free money. Nope, you got to go make it happen for yourself. And when we wait around and you point fingers at this person screwed me over and that, you have this victim mindset. And it's sad because when you have so much potential, you could have everything that you want in your life, but you're playing the victim and you're sitting there self-sabotaging because you're maybe your ex-husband, maybe your boss, maybe this, but it's like, what are you doing?
Mm,
Look in the mirror and say, what is it that I can control? And it takes two to tango. I don't care if somebody is a horrible human being that stole money from you. You have to move on. You have to say, what can I control in this
mm,
moment? You
mm,
know, because no one's going to be here to save you, to elevate you. Yes, connections are awesome. I never got connections in my life. Everything I have, I earned. Even having somebody in my pockets. How did you get this person? I'm like, I figured out a way to reach out to them, and you just reach out. I love connections. I mean, I know that this is what I hear. The more you elevate, I guess you get in the room with the right circle and you're around the right people. I'm all about that, right? But when you come from a place of grassroots, you just go figure out how to make it happen. Like I went door knocking to go find people that needed to sell their home. I know I had value to help somebody else. And when you come from a place of contribution, like real genuine, authentic contribution, and like Zig Ziglar taught me when I saw him speak before he passed away in Phoenix, Arizona, is that your customer has to be the biggest beneficiary in the deal. It doesn't mean that you're going to get screwed over. It just means that when you come from a place of that genuine contribution, life will just give you so much more. So much more. Sometimes it's not that customer. Maybe they don't appreciate you, but the fact that you're performing and you're showing up in that way to contribute in a way that's real authenticity and a real just love, it multiplies, Julia. It really does. And so I love that you mentioned that earlier because that's kind of the mindset. I mean, obviously I didn't come from handouts, but it does. It allows us to have grit. I think that's where grit is born and perseverance, and you just get
mhm.
through it.
I am so aligned with your philosophy. I love it. And that's why we attracted each other, right? We attracted
Absolutely.
each other.
Yes.
Why are we here together? And I was like, okay, come on my podcast, share your wisdom. Let's talk about your book. And I would love to promote you because maybe someone here would want to work with you, and I'll be very happy for that. So
Thank
please tell
you.
us tell us again the title of the book, and
Of
obviously
course.
I will put a link to the book if someone
Okay.
wanted to
Thank
buy
you
it.
so much.
But
Yeah, so
how did you? Is it your first book? Was the title, and how did this dream come about? Was it a dream or calling?
thank you so much. So yes, I actually started writing this book years ago, Julia, years ago. And I feel like God has a timing. I feel like life, the universe, whatever you call it, has a perfect timing. Because what it reminds me of the story. I don't know if you know Rachel Ray. I don't know if she does she still do cooking shows, but she's a popular cooking show person, and she started with like sticky notes, and she would write recipes, and she collected this for years, and that's how my book was. It was like real scrappy. I would be on the computer. It was like everywhere, just the thought that would come up. And I'm like, I really want to do this book. And so, anyway, so when I finally decided to finish it, really, I finished the actual entire book. And then I went to a conference to get an agent and I had to pitch myself. It was almost like Shark Tank. I had to pitch my book, my idea to, I don't know, maybe 20 booths of agents and publishers. And I had 90 seconds to pitch my book. And so that's how the journey started. And I did get some interested agents and finally got an agent. And she kept pitching me to publishers. And I said, you know what? I got it. This book is coming out. Like at heck or high water, it's going to come out. I have a message that's been waited way too long. And we got rejected by some publishers and a lot of them. And I said, I'm gonna rewrite this book. They don't like it. And my agent says there's nothing wrong with your writing. And I said, well, if there's nothing wrong with my writing, why aren't they picking it up? And so, as you know, most publishers want to know that you're like a Martha Stewart platform, or you're
Already like
a
done and ready,
Kardashian,
right?
right? That you have like 5 million followers. Well, if I had 5 million followers, I'd publish this myself. And so, right. And so that was a real thing. But luckily, and this is one of the things that I tell you right now, and I can humbly say that I was ready to just publish this thing myself if it didn't work out. So I think when you're
Mm.
after something and you're pursuing it with all your might, with all your fire, your heart and soul, right? That's where I was. But I remember saying to myself, I had a sense of urgency. I said, I don't want to wait. because if a publisher picks up my book, every agent told me you can do research. That's 18 months out. Even if I was a celebrity, they would go out 12 to 18 months, unless there was some scandal and they wanted to get it out earlier. Who knows? They'll do it in 90 days. But I knew it. I knew it'd be 12 to 18 months minimum. And I said, no, I don't want to wait that long anymore. And so, long story short, I started to edit my book and get it like my book edited. And then my agent decided, I told her I'm going to do this myself. If someone doesn't have a seat at the table, I'll create my own dang table. That was my mindset. I was done. And so I share that because it's the release, right, Julia? Like when you're
Yeah.
holding on to something so tightly, you suffocate it. And I just feel when and that's not aligning ourselves. That's not aligning ourselves with our true journey because it's already been written, right? And I feel like when I was holding on so tightly, I wasn't allowing it to breathe, right? Let it breathe. And when I finally let it go and said, that's fine, I'll just create my own table. I released the expectation. I was done. And that's when it happened. My agent said, I know you're gonna do your own thing. And I found an indie publisher actually that would do it in less time. And she said, I know you want to do it, sooner than 18 months, but this is one of the largest publishers in personal development. And I'm like, huh? You got my attention. And so got a Zoom call and it kind of happened. But the message here is stay with your dream. Stay with it no matter what. Anything happens, anything changes. It takes a moment to shift something, but nothing's going to shift if you stay the same, right? If you're having these thoughts that no one's going to pick me up, if you're having, fearful thoughts or what have you, like I was just saying, you know what? My reality kicked in and I said, well, I don't have 5 million followers. I don't have a celebrity name, but I do know who I am and I know what I stand for. And I know this message in my book is real. It's not just about my story. I give people real, tangible tools to make shifts in their life, to really make an impact. Right. This book is designed in a way where it's going to absolutely change the way you look at certain things in your life, even if it's just one thing. But I promise any reader will take more than just one thing, right? Even when I read a book, I'm like, oh my gosh, how many times have we seen a movie for the third time? And on the third time you watch a movie, you realize there was a part that came out that you've seen it so many times, but you're like, I never noticed that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
There's all that. And you mentioned this earlier about competition with even authors, even in the space of personal development, even with coaching, like you do. You know why it doesn't even faze me? It doesn't even matter to me. You know why? Because the way that I see it, in any coach that might be doing work, and including you, here in America, we have a very popular ice cream shop chain everywhere, and it's called 31 Flavors. And you go in, and that's exactly what you get, 31 flavors of ice cream when you walk in. And you're like, oh, which one do I want? You're overwhelmed by so many options. Same thing with coaching. Oh my God, this person promises to do some Reiki work. This other person's energy healer. This
Yeah.
other person's about goals. I need it all. How do I do all this stuff? Right. And so I feel that we as coaches, we're just another unique flavor in the 31 flavors. We all have our approach. We all have different ways of delivering things. We all have different perspectives that we bring to the table. And so that was my thing. But yes, the more mindset has been a labor of love. I poured my heart and soul into this book. I do have a book that's a shorter read, that it's just a ebook more so, but it's an amazing book. It's Change Your Mindset, Change Your Life. And I do that when I've spoken at events. I've given it away. If you sign up for my newsletter, you get this gift. And that was a short read. And people were like, wow, this book's amazing. I've had people walk up to me and say that there was a part in there that helped their daughter that was like in college. And I was so overwhelmed by the feedback. I'm like, this is so amazing. Wait till you see my other book. If you like this little read, wait till you see the more mindset. And it's a global publisher, Julia. It's Wiley who is publishing my book, and it launches January 13th, but it's available now for pre-orders. So if you go to Amazon, it's global. I know somebody ordered the book from Germany. I found out last week, Mexico, in India, was it India? I don't know. Either way, especially in the UK, it's available for purchase on Amazon. You can also go to themoremindset.com. I'm sure you'll have a link. And on there, what I love, and I've started to kind of send out to people that I know have purchased my book because it didn't take advantage of the bonuses. And I'm gonna start adding more stuff so people know about it. But if you order pre-order, all you have to do is submit a copy of your receipt and you get access to some bonuses that is it comes free with your pre-order. But yes, you can go to themoremindset.com or on Amazon and just put the More Mindset Diana Pagano and you should find it.
Congratulations on that. And
Thank you
now
so
that
much.
you said your beautiful name again, do you have Italian origins?
Oh,
Or where
Pagano.
is
So
it?
my husband, okay,
Ah,
so it's interesting. My husband's father is Italian from Sicily and his mother is Spanish from Puerto Rico. And that's where I get the Pagano. But my maiden name is Nieves. And my mom, okay, so my father, both of my parents are from Monterrey, Mexico. So I'm Mexican.
oh,
But what's funny is growing up in school, everyone's like, you're white. Like, how are you Mexican? And profile. You got
yeah,
to be
yeah,
short and dark if you're
yeah,
Mexican,
yeah.
which is true. A lot of them are. But my dad is very European. People thought he was from Greece. He's because my mom, my father's my grandfather and my mom, his mother, there's from Spain and Italy, but it goes back probably to his great grandfather. So my husband always says you're probably more European than you think because I just got that test where you
Yeah,
do
the
this
DNA test
the
with the
DNA.
ancestry.
I
Yeah.
don't care what I am. I'm a woman of God. Everyone is beautiful regardless of what color background you have, or if I might even have some Japanese, which I thought my mom, I think it was her great grandmother that was half or not half, maybe a quarter from either Korea or some part of Asia. Because my mom, she doesn't look Asian, but you can see a little bit of like her eyes. Maybe that's why I love Asian food so much. Either way, I just want to do it because my mom's 80. She'll be 82 in January. And I'm like,
Ah,
my father passed away, but I just find it fascinating just to kind of see. But yeah,
oh
so
my
that's a
God.
long-winded answer to my
Another
husband.
thing we can relate on because I'm half Bulgarian, half Russian, with an Italian surname because of my
Okay.
ex-husband, and
Okay.
our children are quarter Bulgarian, quarter Russian, half Italians, born in England. I
Oh,
love the
wow.
multifaceted and multicultural
Same. The
heritage
culture.
that we have and
Yes,
we bring to our children. And before
absolutely.
I ask my crown question, I just would like to have a sip of my alkaline water. I only drink
Yes.
alkaline antioxidant water, and the episode
Yes.
is sponsored by yourhealingwater.com.
Oh, I love it. I always drink alkaline water. And I have a
Yeah.
well, which is like 9 point something alkaline, but when I'm not at home, I do my best to get alkaline water. The
We
best
need
that
to be healthy. We need to take care of our
absolutely,
bodies, of our health to continue our mission. So wait for my
absolutely.
crown question. Diana, show me your diamond.
Show me your diamond. So my biggest diamond, I believe, is my children.
Oh, and you have all four of them. It's
All my four
amazing.
children. Yes, they are. Gosh, I'm not gonna get emotional. See, this is what happens. I cry on commercials, Julia. But my four kids, obviously my family as a whole, my mom has been my rock. So when I see the diamond, I'm like, my mom takes, a big piece of that. But my children, my husband too has been very supportive. But my children, as a mom, it changes you. I was a mom very young. Um, as a young kid, I told myself I was going to be a young mom one day, and that I wouldn't, you know, allow the turbulence that I witnessed growing up, that I wouldn't allow that for my children. And when I had my two kids from my ex-husband, that's exactly what started to happen. Is I started to basically break the promise of making sure that my kids never went through what I went through, and that's why I had to make the hard decision and get the courage to leave that bad situation for my children. But I was growing up with my son. I mean, I had him at 18 years old.
Wow.
And here in America, when you are a senior in high school, you have a prom. Instead of a prom, I had a wedding. My parents were Catholic. You're having a baby, you're getting married, and I don't regret it. I think that, my son is my everything, and we grew up as kids together, and then I had my daughter after. Um, but my kids are everything to me.
Oh,
And
I love.
my little ones now, Chesko and Anthony, are 10 and 11, and with that I had with my husband now. And Julia, the level of support, I know it sounds silly because they're so little, but they are my biggest cheerleaders. They really are. And anything with Make Things Happen, my podcast, they are so interested. I literally walk home. I come inside my house and I'll see my 11-year-old what, and they're we monitor what they watch, but I see him on the TV screen watching one of my podcast episodes, and I'm not even home. Like I come home to that. I go to the parent teacher conferences and they're like, they always talk about you and what you do. And that's priceless.
Oh,
That's
this
priceless. I
it
couldn't have
touch
asked for something
it,
more.
it touches my heart, and I'm sure it's going to touch millions of hearts around the world. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you for
Of course.
sharing your story, your wisdom, your beauty, your humanness, your beautiful diamond soul. I am very
Thank you so
grateful.
much. Thank you so much for having me. I love everything that you're doing as well to empower others. I think there can never be too many of us, and this life we live, right? Truly, it's like we get one life to live. If you believe in 9 lives like a cat, good for you. But we get one life to live, right? Gosh,
Yeah.
and I think about myself and I tell people like think about like at 95 years old when you're looking back at your life. Maybe you're 110, I don't care, but 95, I'm going to be that woman going to a conference, learning about some new development about the brain. I'm so obsessed with how we work as humans and what, you know what I mean? And so that's what drives me is knowing that there is no regrets. Even when you don't succeed, you went for the thing that you wanted to do, and that's huge.
And with that, I also agree with you because that's my mission too. Me and you and many women and men around the world are leaving the legacy because we're thinking bigger than our own lives. We're leaving the legacy for our children, but not only, we're leaving it for anyone who is willing to learn through our mistakes, through our experiences, our stories. And if we can change one or two lives along the way, what an amazing
Worth it.
life we had.
Absolutely. It's a privilege. It's a privilege. It's an honor. I always say our pain that we've gone through and is somebody else's gain. It's our power that we get to share later because we know what it took to get to the other side. And why not?
And with love from London and love from, are you in New York or Boston right now?
Both is, I'm right in the middle. I'm like a sandwich, right in the
Okay,
middle.
okay, okay.
So New
So
York, Boston, East Coast.
from England and the US, lots of love to all of you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. God bless you.